There's a way to find out whether a former police chief used racial slurs, slept with a drug informant, and asked to be invited to live sex shows. Wouldn't you want to know? Well, there is, and the city of West Linn didn't tell us about it for 12 years.
I can't believe that this persisted for so long.
Now, I gotta say, being on paid leave in some ways sounds kind of nice.
Seen it, saw it.
Get to stay home, play video games, even get a raise. And heard, have you, a new name the Moda Center has. The Story This Is.
Of all the news stations in all the world, we find ourselves right here at this one together, so let's take advantage. I'm Dan Haggerty. This is The Story. This is the show where you can actually kind of become a part of things that we do here, a part of the story. We want you to talk to us. Pick up your phone, use the hashtag HeyDan on Twitter. Send us an email, hit me up on Facebook, use Instagram, put a little note on a falcon and send it our way. We will read it. We will talk to you. Let's have some fun. All right, now we want to get started right now with our big story right off the bat because it is a doozy tonight. There are a lot of news phrases you've probably gotten familiar with watching the news over the years. You know, officer-involved shooting, 2-alarm fire, level 5 evacuation. Well, tonight we're going to talk about one of our favorites, paid administrative leave. Have you ever really thought what it entails? Well, Kyle Aboshi has. He met a Department of Corrections nurse who went on leave while his employer investigated reports of workplace violations. That was 16 months ago. And during all of that time, he still made his $98,000 a year salary for sitting around at home playing video games.
The state of Oregon employs tens of thousands of workers, and the public pays their salary. So as a taxpayer, you might be surprised to learn you're paying for this.
This is silly. Now he's hiding and...
A state worker earning $98,000 a year
Slayer, demon hunter.
to stay home
Black Sheep Squadron.
and play video games.
You just do whatever you can when you're at home because you can't just sit in front of the television all the time.
For the past 16 months, the Oregon Department of Corrections has paid Jamie Cook his full salary to stay home from work, where he's a registered nurse.
This is never ending. This is the never-ending story of staying at home. And I don't want to be here. I want to work.
Jamie's on what's called paid administrative leave, which means his bosses are looking into allegations of misconduct. Jamie is accused of violating several workplace policies, including abandonment of assignment. We don't have access to all the details. It's confidential. But Jamie says he didn't do anything wrong.
Why is it taking so long to investigate?
I have no answer.
They tell you what's going on or give you any kind of updates?
Nope. Mugwai.
So instead of going to work, Jamie's required to clock in from home, Monday through Friday like a normal workday, including a lunch break. He accrues vacation and sick time, even got a pay raise.
You're able to work, you want to work, but you're just stuck here.
I wanted to know why Jamie's case dragged on and had questions about the state's use of paid administrative leave.
Department of Corrections said they talked to us, they do an interview, but they said they can't really talk about Jamie's case specifically because it's a personnel issue. Just for clarity though, can you explain why you can't talk about his case?
A number of reasons. One, because the case is still ongoing. We have not concluded to the very end his case. Two, we need to protect the employee. It's really important. We need to protect the agency, and we need to make sure that his rights are upheld as well.
Last year, records show the Oregon Department of Corrections spent nearly $500,000 to put 33 of its employees on paid administrative leave. They were out, on average, 2.5 months. Corrections explained personnel investigations can be complex, and they take time. Witnesses need to be interviewed, other agencies or police might be involved, and most employees have union representation.
We have a responsibility to treat the employee fairly and to make sure that we are investigating appropriately and not missing anything.
I recognize you can't talk about Jamie's case specifically, but generally speaking, why would an investigation take more than a year?
Well, it could be that the investigation needs to be broadened It could be that that the investigators themselves maybe have changed hands. It could be that an investigation needs to be redone. So all of those things take time.
But a year's a long time.
A year is a long time, and we really try to make sure that we don't spend that much time investigating and concluding a case, but sometimes it's unavoidable.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
The Department of Corrections is just one state agency, and certainly not the largest, which got me wondering, how many other state employees are paid to stay away?
I asked every state agency for a breakdown of number of employees on paid administrative leave for last year, 2019. There were 288. Of those, 164 were on leave for more than a month. That's 57%. That's more than half. 25 employees were on paid administrative leave for 6 months or longer, and there were a couple that were on leave the entire year.
This practice of paid administrative leave is expensive, no question. Last year alone, taxpayers shelled out $3.2 million for state employees to stay home while their misconduct was investigated.
Would this happen in the private sector?
No. As a general rule, private employers tend to be more strict in complying with their leave law entitlements for their employees. And they tend to restrict as much as they can because they have an incentive to make sure folks get back to work when they're capable and able to return to work.
So what can be done to speed up the process? Some local and state governments around the country have established deadlines requiring personnel investigations to wrap up within a certain time frame, like 30 or 90 days.
Yes.
That way, the public isn't stuck paying for state workers to stay home while on paid leave.
It's very frustrating.
And an update, a really important update. Late today we found out that Jamie got his job back. Department of Corrections said, listen, after 16 months of this internal investigation, it's wrapped up. He got a letter of reprimand, but he will be back on the job within a matter of days.
They just wrapped it up today.
Yes.
When you ran your report.
Yeah.
That's a coincidence.
Well, I reached out to Department of Corrections, a spokesperson. Why the timing behind all this? Why today? They couldn't elaborate.
All right, Kyle, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Again, there's a lot more detail on the web script you can find at kgw.com, or you can find this story if you want to take another look at it on the KGW YouTube page, along with all of Kyle's investigative work. All right, it's hard to really know where to begin with this next story because, frankly, it is infuriating. I think it's disgusting, complicated. It's going to leave you with a lot of questions. I still have some myself. It's about the former chief of West Linn's police department, Terry Timius, and a report that claims while he was a police officer in Laco, he slept with a drug informant. He asked to be invited to live sex shows between female detainees. And look, the list goes on and on. We're going to touch on all of it, okay? Timius, his name probably at this point sounds familiar to you. It was in the news lately. We've been talking about it here on the story. We told you how back in 2017, Timius and a bunch of his police buddies, they arrested the guy you just saw on the screen there on some made-up charges. They were doing it as a favor for a friend, apparently. Now, the guy that they arrested just settled with the city of West Linn for about $600,000. Now, that situation got people so fired up that all kind of stuff started coming out, bubbling to the surface, like this report. Now, again, this report is filled with accusations from Timius' time as an officer in Lake Oswego. This is before he got the chief job in West Linn. So the timeline, it gets a little complicated. So let's walk through it for just a second. Timius worked as a police officer in Laco for like 18 years. Then in 2005, West Linn hired him for the chief job. Then 3 years after that, in 2008, a former colleague, a Laco cop, comes forward with these accusations of sex on the job and other things. So West Linn then hired an investigator to do this report. Now, let's bring in Kristen Severance. You took a look at this report. Let's just start with the basics. What's in it?
A lot. 100-page report. There are 17 allegations. So West Linn hired this former police chief of McMinnville to do the report. And he kind of lists out the allegations as sustained, meaning he thinks they happened.
Right.
Partially sustained, meaning, kind of some half-truths in there.
Right.
And then something where, yes, he believes it happened, but he doesn't believe it's improper, and then like unfounded. He can't say if it's true or not true.
So let's talk about what he thinks is true.
Okay, and there is so much in this report, but the one thing that the investigator says happened is these two Lake Oswego police officers pulled over two women for a DUI. The two women, they start hooking up. The police officers call Timaeus and say, come here, you have to see this. He is not available. Later on, he says, if that ever happens again and you don't get a hold of me, to come, I'm going to make sure you're fired.
And he's the boss.
He is.
And this is true. The investigator found this to be something that happened.
And he did, and he said that Timaeus should have reprimanded those officers.
All right, let's talk about half-truths or maybe some things that the investigator found to be true but not improper.
Right. So these are things the investigator exactly said were true but not improper. He said that Timaeus had a relationship with another Lake Oswego city employee, and then he also said that, Timaeus and other officers were accused of using just very derogatory terms.
Like racist type stuff.
Exactly.
And then the stuff that wasn't sustained, so he couldn't tell if it was true or not true.
Exactly. And a lot of interviews. Reading the full report, so many people were interviewed for this story. And this one, it was Timaeus showing up at a downtown Portland hotel with an informant that he was sleeping with, and then he gets into this big confrontation with a Portland hotel employee.
All right, so what are we to make of all of this, right? I mean, this report's more than a decade old.
Right, so it was done in 2008. The investigator sends it to West Linn's city attorney. The attorney reads it, writes a memo to city officials saying, you have to read this. They don't.
They never read it.
No.
Got it. All right, Kristen Severance, thank you so much.
You bet.
Again, we do want to highlight the fact that we can thank local journalism for busting this story wide open, because back in 2009, a freelance journalist named Lee Vandervoo, she heard about this report and she requested it. But at the time, the city claimed attorney-client privilege, because remember, as Kristen just said, they never read it. Only the city attorney did. But thanks to this mounting pressure recently and some good old-fashioned reporting, that report is now public. And even Vandervoo, who we talked to, never thought that the contents would be this bad.
I'm still trying to get over the shock of finally reading this thing. It was far worse than I ever imagined. I can't believe that this persisted for so long when this conduct was so visible to the people that reported it, and certainly the people that saw this investigation and the investigator.
Look, it's a 100-page report. It's been boiled down to different types of journalism. We gave you our version just now. You got the Portland Tribune version as well. This entire story is really worth your time. Lee Vandervoo teamed up with Nick Budnick at the Portland Tribune, and they did some incredible journalism, and they helped blow this story wide open, frankly. So we're going to share this on our website, and hopefully you take some time to support some local journalism today. As you can see, it definitely makes a huge difference. We want to tell you about this coincidence, though, today. The Oregon Senate unanimously passed a bill on police accountability just today. Perfect timing, I guess. Basically, it creates standards for how officers are disciplined for misconduct. The bill was introduced before all these allegations against the former West Linn police chief came out, so not really directly related there, but we thought we'd point out that lawmakers are talking about these issues and want to do something about them.
When the story continues, those new Tigered red light cameras are no longer green lit. A local coffee company gets some street cred, and one of the first things Oregon newbies learn when they move here is that we don't pump our own gas, and they're usually told it's because of jobs, but it's really not technically.
All right, welcome back. Lots more to talk about. Thank you for joining us, first of all, and for talking to us using the hashtag HeyDan on Twitter. Now, one of our favorite things to talk about here is cap and trade. So let's do it. Cap and trade 2.0. And the big question right now is the little game of will they, won't they, with the Republicans and the possibility of a walkout. And if so, when? Last night, the Statesman Journal dropped a story saying Republicans are already buying plane tickets to leave the state. Now, we've not been able to independently confirm this yet. In fact, the Senate Republican office told us that the story was largely published on rumors. They also said the session is incredibly dynamic. It's changing every day, sometimes every hour. And they can't confirm any of the senators' travel plans or lack thereof. Regardless, these rumors are still causing a whole lot of chatter at the Capitol, and that brings us to a very special two-part quote of the day. First off, Senate Majority Leader Ginny Burdick had something to say about the walkout rumors. They're getting paid to do the work here, not to pocket the money and go on vacation. Now we've got a response to that from Republican Senator Denise Bowles. She posted an update on cap and trade on Facebook and wanted to set something straight.
I also just wanted to say something about a little bit of the patter I'm getting about me coming to work and doing my job. I'm here every day. I've been here 12, 14, 16 hours a day since legislative session began. And honestly, it's really not about my job. It's really about saving yours.
All right, we should also mention that Senator Bowles told us last night that she's not aware of any senators buying plane tickets over cap and trade either. Last year, though, Republicans, they did walk out when the bill reached the Senate floor. You probably remember that. And right now, the bill is still in committee. There have been no hearings. There's no schedules for it right now. But if and when it does pass out of that committee, the very next step will be to head to the Senate floor.
We are digging into the camera roll tonight in the weather story because I got a couple of really great images to share with you. We'll start local and then we're going to go not local, but you're going to like it. Check this out. This is Cannon Beach right now. Great picture from @DutchMills71. Not just the clear sky and the big haystack rock, but the reflection. Really nice composition there. Thank you @DutchMills71. This was from a couple days ago from John Waller out in the gorge. He went out there in the morning, obviously a drone shot. The fog was blowing away. It was at the beginning of the east wind. John is a professional, has a company called Uncage the Soul. They make awesome videos, but a really cool shot of the gorge. There's Crown Point and the fog blowing away in the gorge, revealing itself. Also on Tuesday, but not in the morning, in the afternoon, and again from another professional, Rick Schaefer, responsible for the Oregon books. Look at this one. I'm calling this City Glow and Alpenglow. Now, the City Glow is obvious. The lights of the city shining, but the Alpenglow is the pink Mount Hood there. Alpenglow happens when the sun is low. Actually, the sun has set if you're here in town. If you're up on top of the mountain, the sun is still up, but the longer red light wavelengths make it through. The blue light gets scattered away when the sun is low on the horizon, and so you get the red or pinkish glow on the mountain. So a really beautiful shot of our fair city and our fair mountain, Mount Hood, from Rick Schaefer. Then we're going to go over to the Great Lakes because this is rad. This is what's called an ice volcano. This is not Photoshop. There's the open water of Lake Michigan out there. This is the ice along the close to the shore. What happens is that ice builds up, but the waves are still coming underneath it, and the waves are big enough that pushes water up. You literally get water shooting out of the top of this ice mound, and when the air is cold enough, it just refreezes as it falls, and it creates this big mound. So, ice volcanoes, they're a real thing. Needs to stay cold enough to have that near-shore ice. The waves need to be big enough to push the water up through that hole. And in case you'd like to go climb on one of these things, don't do it. They're really unstable. They're basically hollow inside and could collapse. So they can get up to 25 feet tall. How about that? So we showed you a volcano with alpenglow, and we showed you an ice volcano. And you know what? Lots of opportunities to see our volcanoes in the next several days because our forecast stays clear tomorrow up to 56. Dan?
All right, good stuff, Matt. Thank you. So we did this whole big media blitz when we learned that Tigard was installing 3 red light cameras along 99W. They're at Southwest Hall Boulevard, 72nd Avenue, and Durham Road. And they went live last Tuesday. So we sent Morgan Romero out there to talk to drivers and see what neighbors think and city officials, because red light cameras are a very contentious issue. I mean, it's a robot deciding if you broke the law or not. So yeah, okay. But sorry, we kind of buried the lead here tonight, Journalism 101. What I should have told you right off the bat is that the red light cameras have been turned off. But, you know, before you go blowing through red lights with reckless abandon, this is only a temporary thing. Apparently, there was some type of miscommunication between the Tigard police, the contractor who installed them, and ODOT. The installers followed their own guidelines, but they didn't follow ODOT's guidelines. So now they've got to bring them back up to ODOT's standard, which really doesn't really take all that long. But I guess the moral of the story is we got to have standards.
Quick question for you. Why don't we pump our own gas in Oregon? If your answer was because of jobs, well, you're not exactly wrong, but you're not all the way right either. And listen, I know Baby Yoda is super popular and cute and everything, but come on, this is getting ridiculous.
All right, this next one's for the 112, the 112 people who move to Oregon every day. And you might not be up on all the things that make Oregon, like pumping gas. You probably notice when you pull up to the gas station, somebody pulls up to you with a vest on to pump it for you. Now, unless you moved here from New Jersey, where they actually don't pump their own gas like we don't, then you probably took some getting used to with that. But it's been this way for, I'm going to get through the script, trust me, but it's been this way for a long time. The question is, how did we get here?
We have to go all the way back before KGW was even on the air. 1951. That's when the state banned us from pumping our own gas. The number one reason for this that you'll likely hear is that it generates jobs. That's true, but that's actually an unwritten reason. Officially, it was a safety thing. The state worried about gas being a fire hazard, or people slipping on the ground when it was raining, because, it rains a lot here, or older people or people with disabilities having difficulty, or just the fact that gas fumes are a health hazard. Basically, stay in your car, you're safer there. But there are some exceptions. If your vehicle needs diesel, for instance, you can pump that yourself. Or if you ride a motorcycle or a motorized scooter, pump at your heart's content. Just in 2018, leaders started letting rural communities pump their own gas. Now, you can't actually get in trouble for pumping your own gas, but the gas station can be fined by the fire marshal, but only if they get a complaint, and those complaints are extremely rare. And that's how we got here.
So you probably haven't heard this, maybe you have, but Seattle rapper Macklemore, the thrift shop guy, he is expanding his career outside of music with an Oregon coffee company. He just signed on with Dutch Bros as their executive creative director of cold brew. Yes, that is his actual title. Apparently, he's helping come up with some new products and flavors. Something else you probably don't know, but Macklemore's real name is Dan Haggerty. Spelled the same exact way. We might be related. Who knows, right? It's a mystery. My producer actually wanted me to wrap this segment, but I said, let's just leave that to the other Haggerty. Hey, you know who else has an in with Dutch Bros? Our very own Laurel Porter. She actually got them to advertise for us on her Instagram.
Hi, my name's Carlos. I'm here at Dutch Bros. And if you don't have the KGW app, why do you even have a phone?
Do you like it?
I love it. I love it. Get all my news here, Perfect place. Wow, look at all that.
Get that kid a contract, man. Bring him aboard. That was a good pitch. Hey, keep your comments and your questions coming. We want to hear everything. Pick up your phone. Send us an email. Use the hashtag HeyDan on Twitter. We're going to read some of your messages when we come back. Also, we're going to get the inside scoop behind the Moda Center's new name, at least according to Rolling Stone magazine. We're going to finish the story when we come back. Keeping Portland weird today is the Moda Center's new name, at least according to Rolling Stone magazine. They're advertising the Weekend concert on July 31st at the Yoda Center. Feel my face, I can't with you, but love it, I do. I mean, that's a deep Yoda cut right there. They're owning it too, Rolling Stone magazine, or at least the Yoda Center, the Moda Center. They put up this picture of the new facade, and they've got Baby Yoda up there and everything. And hey, let's give Rolling Stone some credit. They caught their mistake. They went back and changed the name to the Yoga Center. All right, guys, you're just making fun of us now, but that's fine. I don't mind. Hey, listen, if you see some weird stuff out there during your day in Portland, we want to see it. Next time, pick up your phone, take a picture, send it our way. Use the hashtag HeyDan. Some people use that hashtag tonight. Send us in some comments. I was talking about ways to get a hold of us at the beginning of the show. I said you could use a falcon or a pigeon. Somebody said, can you really do that? Maybe. Yeah, Sean, I think you could. Give it a try. Curtis writing in and saying, so about Kyle's story about the man who was on paid leave for like a year, made $100,000, that while they investigated his wrongdoing, they said that's ridiculous, it's absurd, it's a waste of money. That's why we're doing these stories, and we're going to keep working on them for you. Also, Lynn writing in and saying, thank you for the story. Unbelievable things happening right here, and we deserve to know about it. Appreciate you and KGW News for supporting this new format. Honestly, it starts from the top down. This whole station is involved. We're proud of it. We're really happy you guys like it, but honestly, it takes your feedback every single night, so keep it coming. Without you guys, there is no story. That's it for us tonight. Thanks so much for being part of this one. Let's send it over to Laura Porter in the news at 6:30.